is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Howdy, it's late at night and I'm in the Colombian industrial town of Barranquilla, up on the coast. It's a pretty dangerous place in its own right for a whole different reason than what I'm here to talk about. But I got so much good stuff over the weekend that it's going to take a week or maybe two to put it all into the Hot Zone. But I wanted to start by showing you a little bit about our trip out to the Panamanian border. Now, to get to the Panamanian border is not easy because it's just a long trek from everywhere. We flew into Cartagena and then we drove about 8 hours out to the boat dock at the Gulf of Urabá, I guess is how you say it. And from there you have to take a ferry across to a little tiny town called Cartagena. And so here's a little bit of what that looked like. This might look like a tropical paradise here at Necoclí on Colombia's northwestern border with Panama, but it's about to become a tropical hell for a few dozen migrants who arrived today and are waiting for those boats behind me tomorrow morning to take them across to the trailhead that will take them through the Darien Gap. It's some of the most inhospitable jungle on the planet, and all of the migrants who come through here have to walk through there. Now, most of them have no idea what they're about to face. It's 6 days of hellish walking through some of the most difficult terrain on the planet with no clean water, very little food, and lots of bad people in there who rob and rape and even kill many of the migrants who go through there. I've talked to those coming out on the other side and they say it's the most arduous days of their life. And what they also say now is that the reason they've chosen to come at this moment is twofold. First, Joe Biden is now the president of the United States, and so they expect to be treated better once they get to the U.S. southern border. Number two, they all say that they have heard from relatives who have already made this journey and are now in the United States, and their relatives are telling them now is the time to come. Now, I want to save what happened once we got to Cartagena for later podcasts this week. But before I go, I wanted to show you a piece that I made from the Panamanian side of the Darien of the migrants coming out on that end and what they say about the trek. Check it out. Forming the border between Panama and Colombia is the Darien Gap, a roadless, lawless region 60 miles wide. Panama is seeing its own illegal migration as people from various countries undertake the perilous trek through the jungle. Once the rainy season begins, this kind of river and this kind of dugout canoe is the way that people travel out here. If you can't get there by boat, then pretty much you can't get there. And it's especially dangerous in the beginning of the wet season because they get rain that's measured in feet, not inches, and that causes flash flooding. But the real flood that they have to deal with right now is a flood of human beings. Alan Foster, a missionary who works with indigenous groups here, says the situation is worse now than ever.
It's just a very dark area, largely controlled by guerrillas and paramilitaries. There's a lot of hardship, both physical and spiritual oppression that's happening right now to the peoples there. The migrants, the journey to get to the Darien Gap takes anywhere from 5 to 8 days to walk. Depending on the weather, there may or may not be water. There's parts that are nearly impassable where people have to crawl on all fours. People are literally traipsing over the top of clothed skeletons to be able to get through, and not all of them make it.
Panamanian border police, known as Senafront, have struggled as the flow of migrants went from a few dozen a week to now sometimes hundreds each day.
You know, there are a lot of people, they are arriving every day. And the majority of them, there are a lot of pregnant women and many children, they are sick. And you know, Panama is a small country, but we try to do our best, but I'm sure we need more help.
So the migrants that are coming through this part of the Darien, deep in the jungle, they don't just have to deal with crossing rivers like this or the natural hazards like bugs and wild animals and snakes and scorpions and things like that. They're having to deal with armed bands of thugs who are industrializing the robbery of these migrants as they come through here. And many of them never come out alive.
When they came, they pointed a gun. They robbed me. They took my bag, the phone I had. When they took the bags, they went to the bush. They went with one lady inside the forest.
This group of migrants fled violence in the West African country of Cameroon, but they had no idea what they would face when they entered the jungles of Colombia.
Dead bodies, like, for me, my experience, three dead bodies.
Who was
One man, a lady, and a child.
It was like hell if you don't have courage. It was very hard because the road is terrified. Armed robbers, thieves are everywhere.
So if you can imagine the migrants who are coming through the Darien are coming into these incredibly remote villages where there just are not a lot of resources. There are not a lot of food, drinkable water. So it's causing a lot of strain on the indigenous communities in this area.
This is a big concern for the Panamanian government, as the jungle is a fragile ecosystem inhabited by primitive indigenous tribes who can be adversely affected by the flood of migrants.
All these guys live in some places in the world that they have native diseases. When they came to Panama, they bring that diseases to here. It's the responsibility of the National Border Service and the Health Service to take care of it, try to preserve the life of our natives. That's why the National Border Service have that multinational operations called control flow, in where we coordinate the movement of all these massive groups through Panama and toward the other borders.
Because Panama serves as a choke point, the U.S. Border Patrol has agents stationed in these camps where they take biometric data from every person before they continue north to Costa Rica. But Costa Rica will only accept a small number of migrants per week. Meanwhile, hundreds every day are entering Panama, which is resulting in very poor conditions in the camps.
So we're back in the camp at Penitas, and a new group has just arrived. This whole truckload is from India, and they're getting registered now, getting their biometrics taken, fingerprints, iris scan, things like that, photographs, getting checked against whatever databases the United States has. So I'm going to go visit a little baby who was born in the camp right after his mother finished that terrible journey. Can you imagine making that journey at 9 months pregnant? That's unbelievable.
This young mother planned to escape Cuba and go to the United States, but baby Darien is now a Panamanian citizen. So the authorities here say she will not be allowed to leave with her baby until he's older. Meanwhile, more than 3,000 people languish in these camps, hoping to continue their journey north as soon as possible. But Alan Foster says God can use this misery for his glory.
It's a very sad situation, but the people that arrive have just come through one of the most emotionally impactful experiences of their life, and we actually feel it's a really good opportunity for them to be receptive to the gospel here.
From Yavisa, Panama, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
All right, folks, that's all I've got for tonight. I'm wasted, and so I'm going to go to bed. But please like and share this podcast. We're getting a lot of new subscribers. I appreciate every one of you. And if you want to join me on a trip, I'm going to Armenia the first 2 weeks of May, or first week of May. And anybody that wants to is welcome to go. So you can sign up. I think it's bit.ly/Armenia 2021. Whatever, I'll put the link in the description here in the video. But I hope some of you will go along. We got a bunch of people going, and it's going to be a good time. I'm Chuck Holton. This is The Hot Zone.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media.
Copyright 2021.